with these vertices now connected, let's start to just shape this a little bit more so we can get back that shape that we had earlier. So I'm just going to use this slide vertex tool here just to move these points over. And what I'll do now is you can see that the back leg is still on its own layer and the body is on its own layer. So what I want to do now is just to bring these together on the same layer. So I'm going to use these little dots on the end of this layer here that you can see, and I'm just going to hold shift down and drag them to the body layer now, and that will now place both items on the same layer. And it just unifies the mesh a little bit more so I can see what I'm doing a little bit clearer. Okay, so now I'm just going to bring back the reference. And you can see where we possibly need to just push this geometry up a little bit further here. We're matching that crease in the leg there. If I just turn that down a little bit more, we're matching this crease here. That's moving down to around about there. The back leg comes out quite a way at the back here. I can push this over a little bit more. It's this large muscle at the back here, comes right the way around. We need to just fill this out a little bit more with a few more tweaks just to make that. But this is just my first pass over this, and we can always come back later on. At the moment, we're just really blocking out these main shapes and trying to get things as close as we can. Let's hide this one again. Back to see what we've done. Probably need to move this point directly upwards. So I'll just change this now to a select, just so I can have a little bit more control over that particular point. Choose my transform tool here, and I'll just move that up in the Y direction. So let's continue here, and what I will do now is link up this section underneath the dinosaur here, and I'm going to link up a few of these polygons and see where that takes me. So here I'll go to quads and I'll use direct, and I'll snap these quads over here. And with those 3 polygons now created, what I want to do now is just put a split in these here. So I'll use split rings, I'll reduce it to 1, hold shift so it hits the center, and click to split those there. Back to the quads tool, and let's join these up here, and this big one there. That finishes that back part of the leg. And now we've got this issue at the front part of the leg here. And we've got quite a few polygons here, 3 in fact, which are going to lead into this polygon here. Now, as it happens, I don't think I've got enough geometry in here. I've got these 3 large polygons on here, and I need to start to move these around a little bit. So I'm going to do that using the slide edge tool here, and I'm just going to slide these up here. Slide these ones down just to even these up. We can always add some more later on if we've still not got enough. But what you can see, we've got these very large polygon areas here, and I'm making it a very large polygon down the center because I'm going to put some splits down there. So just moving these over for now, just to make some space. Then I'll go back to my split rings tool here and increase to 2, and I'm going to put 2 splits into there. And now I'll simply connect these 2 together here. So let's go back to my points. Let's snap that one to there. We may need to just pull this out here. And then I'll simply connect these ones at the bottom here with the quads tool. So let's simply just go straight across and snap to that one and that one, and then with the split I'll just reduce that down and put one split in the middle there, and then weld these pieces together. So now with that in place, all I'll do is just use my slide vertex tool here, shape this a little bit more. So all I'm doing here is just trying to even out some of these and bring a little bit more mass back to the back leg here. And at any time, if for example I just want to smooth this out, I'm just going to use the brush. I'm going to hold shift with a large brush set in here, and I'll just increase with the right mouse button the power of this smoothing operation, and I can just start to smooth this out here if I want to. I'm going to leave it as it is at the moment because I might want to use these extra polygons that I've put in here for some extra detailing work a little bit later. So now I'll just get back to here and just move these down. Let's widen this out here a little bit more and check with our reference. We lent a little bit high on there, but we've basically got that shape in there now. Got a little bit too far over with that. So we can see on the reference that we've got these folds underneath the stomach area here and under the chest. So that extra geometry that I put in underneath here may help us with those details later on. So let's just move and even up these across here. And the last thing that I'm going to do now is just use my selection tool. I want to put an extra amount of polygons here on this joint where it actually attaches to the main body. So I'll use my edges tool here, and I'm just going to go around this leg here all the way around to the top there, and then I'm going to use my bevel tool on here and just put in an extra loop of detail around that main back leg where it joins to the body. Let's just say OK for that. With the back leg now blocked out, we'll focus now on the front arm. Let's bring in our reference just to double check everything's in place. This inside opacity to just move between the image and our polygons there to just make sure we're lined up fairly well. Okay, so let's make a start. Let's begin by removing these polygons. Let's remove the arm for now, and I'm just going to select 9 polygons like we did before. Having gone through one, we should be fairly familiar with this process moving on to the arm. So let's delete those polygons first, which gives us this, and we'll go over to our slide verts and edges, and let's just make a rough shape here for the arm to be placed into. Again, we're only just putting the groundwork in here for that. We will change the shape of this as we progress. For now, that's fine. Let's bring our arm back. So let's now hide the body and bring the arm into play and do what we did last time, which was to delete these polys. So I'll choose polygons and I'll just left click and drag around to select a bunch of polygons. And let's just delete those polygons to leave that open edge. So let's look at the arm now. So I'll move over to the arm and let's have a look at this mesh a little bit closer. So what I'm going to do is just remove some of these polygons here because I think I've got too many. Delete face and edge tool here, hold down Control and delete that row there. Then I'll move over to slide edges and vertices and I'll choose edges there. Hold down Control again and slide this whole edge loop. So what I'll do now, I'll take these polygons here and here and do the same. What I did before was to just round this out a little bit more with points selected here and just move these up. I've got an extra vertex there. What I'll do very quickly here is just use the quads tool with direct and I'm just going to snap straight across to that part there and then I'll just split this one here and split this one here and then join those two up using the move tool with point selected and just weld those two together. So that gives me that elliptical shape that we were talking about previously with the back leg. So let's move these out a little bit more to just expand this out a little bit. Just to get that shape in there. And now we have these 3 polygons here and we've got our 3 polygons at the top there. We've got a very large distance to cover between these two here, so we can move these inwards a little bit. So what I'll do here is just select everything on this layer, these polygons here on the arm, and then I'll just use the select transform and let's push this back inwards a little bit closer. And again, if we don't get it in the right position straight away, that's fine. We can always move things around afterwards. But we're just trying to match these edges here because we know that we need to connect these together. Whilst I'm here, what I'll do is just deselect that and I'm going to take the arm layer now like we did before with these little dots here. Hold shift down and I'm just going to drag it onto the body layer here. Now it hasn't changed color yet because it isn't attached to the body. So once I attach this to the main mesh on this layer, then we will get a uniform color. So continuing on, all I'm going to do is just continue to just widen these areas out. Let's select those 2 edges there, deselect those 2, right click, and here I can choose bridge. I can specify how many divides I want in that bridge. For now, just let's keep it simple and just put 1 in there for now. Let's repeat that now. So in the same way we did before, we've got a mismatch of polygons for this row here going across, and how many we've got on here is 2. Delete face and edge, holding down Control and delete those edges there. I'll delete those ones there as well. So here I'll just quickly bridge these 2 again. And again, this is an example of where we can just change these around. Once we bridge them, we can see obviously that our mesh is really skewed and that we need to refine this a lot. So here I've selected this row of edges here and I'll just use my select transform and I can just rotate those around like so, just so that edge flow there flows into the neck here a little bit better. Let's drop that. Let's do the same here. Let's select these edges here. Move around so I can select that one. and just rotate those around as well. So let's start off by removing this extra edge row here. So I'm going to use my collapse tool here and just collapse these down. Let's go inside the body cavity. Let's collapse these. Collapse this one down here. This gives us a nice clean edge on that edge, but this one has this triangle in here, so let's remove that. So all I'm trying to do here is just show variations of tools as well as we progress. It's important that we just keep in mind all the selection tools and modeling tools that we have. We don't just limit ourselves because in the modeling process. So let's just weld those, which will kill that polygon there. We have this large, ugly polygon here that we need to sort of massage into place. Let's just clean this top part up now. Sometimes when you're working, like here for example, it's getting a little bit confusing as to what goes where. Rather than struggling and trying to find different methods of connecting these geometry together, sometimes it's better just to simply select the geometry that's making this process a little bit more difficult and simply just removing it. And the reason for this is that it clears the way for you to start seeing where the opportunities lie to match this up in a cleaner way. So let's start by slide vertex and edges and start to move this around so it's starting to make a little bit more sense. So I'm holding control to select this edge row here, and I'm going to just slide that one over there. I'm going to slide this one over here, and it becomes a little bit clearer as to what's going on. So as part of the process where I generated this from curves, I selected too many spans on this object. So for such a small piece of geometry, it's quite complex compared to the rest of the model. So we need to even this up a little bit more. So I'm going to select delete face and edge, hold control down again, and just delete that edge row there. Again, a little bit of cleanup on the point selection, and we'll move this point here and just weld it to that other point there. Use my slide edge and just slide these out around here just to even these up. So in effect, I'm just reducing the amount of resolution in this arm here to make things a little bit cleaner for me to start to attach this in a better way. So what I'll do now is quads tool with direct selected, and I will just start to reconnect these pieces together. And then I'll use my slide edges here and just slide this up. Slide those up a little bit as well, and we can see here that we've got these back polygons here. I need to get rid of those, so I'm just going to move my way around here and remove these polygons here. Don't need those. So I'm establishing a connection here between the torso and this arm, and then this is going to wrap around here to this section here. So let's back to quads tool, snap that one to there, and at the back here I'm going to snap this one. Slide that down using vertex this time. Now at this point I've got rather large polygons here, and I've got quite a few polygons underneath here. And I don't want to create lots of geometry under here just for this arm. So what I can start to do now is even further decrease the number of polygons on the inside of this arm here. So I'll use my delete face edge, or I could use collapse and start to collapse these down. Let's do this one as well. So I'll just start to collapse these. So really reducing that resolution down, and then obviously I can go over onto my slide edges and just use that to even this up a little bit more. And now it's starting to take shape. In the next video, we'll complete the arm and move on to refining the head of our dinosaur. See you next time.